welcome to the Real Love Guitars Shop of Horrors. No, it's not at all. This is Karl's Epiphone Les Paul, made by Gibson or sponsored by. Distracted by this king of all hornets still trying to build its nest in here. So this is pretty sunburst Les Paul from Epiphone, and I can't honestly tell the difference between these and the Vintage V100s. A little bit prettier maybe in the colour, that's about it. Slightly chimier pickups, I think. For me, I'm no expert in pickups. These in the treble bridge position, this has a chimey position, sounds more like the middle on the Vintage V100. Push you pots. Yeah, it's as if the Vintage had 4 positions, and this is 2, 3 and 4 on the Vintage, and on the Vintage number 1 is like another version down in the crispy, sharp breaking glass sound. Right now, today, here and now, without the two things to compare against each other, I kind of prefer the tones of this to the Vintage, but I'm just saying that I don't have them side by side, so it's not really a meaningful comparison. One thing I'll tell you about this guitar straight away, the action's high at this end, or relatively high. Runs out on bends, and that's still pretty high, so we're going to find some horrors down that end. There's a few little flat spots already, like someone's had a go at maybe levelling it. Otherwise, everything's nice about it. It's a little bit lighter than some Vintages. Pretty sounding thing. What I notice is that it's pinging at the nut up here, and the nut looks to me like it's probably plastic actually, which if it is, it might have to go if it doesn't cut, or if it's not very solid. But it's definitely pinging. There you go. Ting. Which means it's going out of tune easily. But so it does. In tune, give it a good pull. So there's so much slack still in these strings. it's going to go out of tune all day, night, and all night, and all day, and all of the night. Something like that. It's going to go out of tune all day and all of the night. So just not bad at all. Lovely colour, lovely sunburst, really warm, nice warmer colour, slightly rosy coloured pickup surrounds, but still plasticky and splitting anyway. But just standard Chinese hardware really. Nothing to write home about. But no reason why this shouldn't be a lovely guitar. But it's a Les Paul, so it's going to have a bit of a plateau up here. So whether the neck bends or not, with relief with the truss rod, it doesn't really bend from about here to here because it's a great big stiff chunk of wood that's glued in against another chunk of wood, so it hardly moves, which means you tend to get a sort of handle and a sickle shape with a handle and a blade. Thankfully my fret leveling method tends to deal with that quite well. The tops come off the switch, which isn't in itself a big deal, but I've got a new switch here which Karl wants me to put on, so I'm going to stick a new switch on it while we're at it, which should be a straightforward, well, I say a straightforward replacement, but the problem with switches is that they're, by the way, there's the third set of strings which I discovered weren't in the pack, they were elsewhere, but anyway, that's good to know that I've got them. Problem with switches is that they're not put in last of all, if you get what I mean. They're put in earlier on, and then all the wires are pulled through, so by the time you get to this stage, looking at this now, you'll probably find everything's under a fair bit of tension in the back here, which means actually could well be quite difficult to hoik this out and change it over. In other words, there's not enough wire to pull out here to do a replacement, and it's kind of almost impossible to work it while it's in the hool. This one's got an extender. Somebody's put a little extension on here. Sorry, we got somebody's earthed, put a connection to earth here on the back, but they put a little wire to bring it up from the earth at the back there to here, and then there's one earth. Is it? No, there's at least two that go into it. Where's the? Right, three earths theoretically all go into that, and then there's our connections. Now there should be no reason why this is giving any trouble. But hey, we'll take a look at it along the way. So, Epiphone Les Paul, all round nice guy guitar. No reason why this won't play. Set up beautifully well. Slightly loose, what's it down there, whatever that thing's called. Strap button. Yeah, I have got a feeling I'm going to scrape this nut, find out that it's plastic. I don't know. Hard to tell. No, maybe it's bone. It still looks too moulded to be bone, but it's very solid anyway. Okay, well, we'll work with it, not against it. Sorry, this will be dazzling you over there. Better shut the door, hadn't I? First fret action isn't bad at all. It's a little bit inconsistent. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little break a minute while the sun's out. I'm going to go and take 5. But what we'll do is I'll come back, we'll set the action on this, lower at this end, a little bit lower at that end, and check the relief in the middle, and then we'll go with the fret leveling, which I'm pretty sure it needs, governed by the fact that some of these bends up here are choked off. So I'll see you in a minute. Oh, where was I? Oh yes, something about measuring the thingy action or something. Where's the thing gone? Okay, so let's check the playing action first. We'll go for a target. Now this is only fractionally above 1.5. We'll go the right way, Samuel. It's only fractionally above the 1.5 target I would aim for. It's a little bit below now. And then on this side of the thing, just over. So not a massive amount of difference. Yeah, we're choked up at that end, which is not surprising. It's quite common, especially on Les Paul copies. Now, I should like to find the thing that measures the thing, which is there. Sorry, it's weird. This is supposed to be. Well, we're in June now, aren't we? It's supposed to be summer, right? You could have fooled me. Right, let's go 13. Let's get my set out again, which I've immediately lost. Let's go, what's this one? 11. No. Start with, oh, hellfire. Let's throw some on the floor because that's just what I need to do. 24, yeah, that's good. 17 to 24, 32. Can't seem to find anything at the moment. Right, 13 we'll start with. 13, yes. 13, and then 17, yes. And then 24, yes. And then 32, which is down here. 32. Then we'll go 42, 48, 42, and 48. 48. Okay, let's just see what we are. Alright, we're on. Time I cleaned this up because I can't see this anymore. It's 30. I should know it's the darkest one. Right, everything's below the mark. So let's start with our bottom three. And we'll go for 32. I'll see what this material does, if it is indeed bone. Not far off anyway. Yeah, it's bizarre. It's supposed to be summer, and it's you've got pretty much nothing but cold weather for the rest of this week. So whenever we're going to get some sunshine, I don't know. I'm going to go backwards. I've wimped out. That's what often happens. Yeah, it's a typical thing to complain about the British weather, but complain I will. It's a shame. It's almost June. Get some sunshine. Anyway. There we go. So we'll get some eventually. So I just tune up the pitch because I want to make sure that the string is sitting right in the slot all the way down, so we don't get caught out and get it stuck halfway down, which will give a false reading. Yeah, I shouldn't complain so much. We've had a couple of nice days, but it doesn't seem like that much. And I won't be going anywhere on holiday, so staycation. Well, carry on setting up guitars basically. Still, it's nice to have a bit of sunshine so I can run out and dive into the hammock for an hour here and there. Okay, I can just live with that, it's nearly there. And then the top three. This is pretty close to begin with, but actually it's not, it's about 0.3 off. There's room for improvement. So I think it is bone. It's very predictable cut, but it looks a bit sculpted, moulded almost, so maybe it could be plastic, who knows. I'm not very good at guessing. But it's cutting dependably enough. So if I do this rest of this guitar tonight, it'll be a world record. It'll be 3 setups in one day. I don't mind. I've got some more guitars coming, so more to do. Okay. And this one isn't cutting very well. I don't know if that's material. And it feels blunt. But because of the backward tilt of the headstock, at least I've got a chance to use further up the blade, which on Strat it's more difficult to do because there isn't any, there's not much room for the top part of the file to go, so you can only use the sort of safe end part. I think I'm happy with that. Right on the mark. This has behaved really well, this material. I have to presume it's nut and bone. Right, almost there. Steve on Big Steve on Facebook this morning was asking me a question about what was the point of a 0 fret and why did people doing it. I think because we both have a Brian May Red Special. I think he has a Burns one, could be, I might be wrong, but or a Guild one, I'm not sure, but and I was explaining that the primary value, or the primary purpose of it, is that it allows, it sets the playing action kind of by default, so you don't need to, technically you don't need to mess around with filing a nut like we just did there. And on a 0 fret guitar there is a nut, but its purpose is just to take care of the horizontal positioning or the spread of the strings. And the height is done by the 0 fret. Right, I've got rid of the ping. Right, that will be tuning stability for starters. That's good. Yeah, so the 0 fret sets the playing action as a function of the height of the saddle. So the clearance, when you have a 0 fret there, the clearance over the 1st fret is depending on whatever the saddle is doing at this end. But because it's 1 fret in a series of frets, it makes the 1st fret action by definition very low, kind of like having a capo on, which is a really nice low action. And of course it also makes the anchor point metal instead of plastic or bone, which changes slightly the tone of it. It's a little bit metallic-y, that's all I can say about it, but I can't say that it's such a big deal that I would go one way or another. And I was saying to Steve this morning that I certainly wouldn't go after a brass nut. He was talking about fitting a brass nut. I'm not sure I would go and fit a brass nut just for that tonal, an idea of getting a tonal improvement, because I've not really noticed that much of a difference from brass nut, putting a brass nut on, particularly when you bear in mind the amount of work it involves to file the slots down. Okay, so this is there's actually quite a lot of relief on the neck here, so it's why this guitar feels strangely, even though the action's 1.5 down to 1, it feels like quite high action, and that's because of this quite a lot of neck relief. So I'm going to take the cover off and just see if I can take out a little bit of that relief. It'll give us a slightly flatter neck, but again I won't know quite how fast it takes action on a guitar like this. Now, where is the Allen key? Somewhere in amongst all of this. Right, if I can't find it from there, I'm going to use this one. Okay, so I want to straighten it out a little bit, so I'm going to tighten this up if I can. When it's sticking out, I don't get a good angle on it, so I would probably want to use a hex key, a right angled hex key. Let's see if this one fits. It's actually still a bit too long as well, so I need the shorter one, which there is one living somewhere. Where did I put my... Okay, I'm losing my mind. Here I put it. This one's probably a bit easier to get to. I tell you what's not working is it's full of gunk, so it needs a bit of a clean out first. Stand any chance of getting anything in there. Here. Okay, so it's a sockety thing, sorry, as opposed to an Allen key. Is that right? Is that an external socket, or has it got both? I think it might be a sort of an outside socket as opposed to an Allen key. I wouldn't know anyway, because I can't get into the right angle even if it was. Sometimes it might even be both, but okay, I've got to get in there first to stand a chance of seeing. Okay, I think it's more of a sockety thing, which I will try and now find. It's not one of those, not one of those. I put it up here, so it might be that one. We shall see. Well, that's the right sort of approach, but it's the wrong thing. It's way too big. Now, where's the smaller one? Oh. Something like that, my friend. $8mm. Ah. That turned it. See what like it turns out to be. .4, still quite a lot. .4 if it still fits under there. Tiny bit more. How'd you come? That's not the best way to measure it, but there we go. I think that's probably close enough. So that's not bad. Let's leave it at that. Put that back in there. And a few things out of the way. Right. Okay, so let us get the strings off. Oh, not off, sorry, let's get them undone so I can put some marker pen on the frets before we do them all the way back up again. Got a few little wear marks down here, so I was just noticing this is slightly worn, this adjuster, from some use in the past. Partly because it's not easy to access if you don't have the special right angle tool. Okay. Just taking a look at the end of here. Guns in here. Too small. Too small. That used to be too big. Yeah, that's not the right thing anyway. It's an external fitting. That's what it likes. Here's one of those that I just had there. Just see a minute. There, right, just 2 seconds if I remember where I put them, which of course I don't. Aha, there they are. Probably not a bad fit actually. That's what I feel. Wiggle waggle. Give me that one. Give me this one. 2 seconds. Okay. That's fine. Let's chuck those in there. Put those out of the way. Right. Marked up. Tuning. Okay, that's got a really nice, just about the right amount of whatchamacallit, curvature, relief. So now is time to get on and do our light fret leveling, bearing in mind that we want this curved tool to gently work its magic on the end here, where there's traditionally people like to put a fall away because of the stiffness of that part of the Les Paul neck. So I want to make the tool map the curve exactly as close as I can, and then allow it to carve away what is effectively a hump around about here. It's not, I guess it's not seen as a hump, but it kind of behaves like a hump. It's where the handle joins the blade, as I mentioned it before. So it's quite a tricky thing to do, because you've got to get this curve as close to exact as you can, and then once you've done that you just let the tool do its work. So there's the tool calibrated to the exact curve of that neck. I'm going to just spread the string away from the edge there and let the tool under gravity do its thing, and including at this end where I want whatever curve there is to just sort of cut into the obstructing joint where the blade of this sickle joins the handle, if you get what I'm getting at. And I can see straight away we're getting a fair few frets kind of worn down at this end. It's right there, right there. It's doing exactly what I expect it to do, which is good news. So what I would also expect now is to be able to play this and hear the notes playing cleanly. Nearly, a little bit more. So diagnostically speaking, it's doing what I'd expect. There's a congestion up here and it's cutting more metal off the frets right up here, because of it's doing that, and then it's plateauing out. So the joint between the curve and the plateau is the danger area, or the tricky area. It kind of effectively sticks up, and it's what this tool here has to gently overcome. And the beauty of this method is that I only have to keep cutting until I've got the action playing. Is that? No, it's not. So, right, a little bit more right at the top. Still, the last 2 frets are just sizzling a bit. So just concentrate on those a little bit more, and then we'll be kind of done on this track. But it's quite amazing how well it takes up these high frets, and these frets at right at the top here are worth taking a picture of because they're a bit of a mess. It's always good to get a close-up of what it's doing. Yeah, thank you. Right, there's some reference point there. Okay, well I'll stop this and return in a minute. Oh, here I am again. Right, so we've done the first track, haven't we? So I've just had some dinner. Going to recalibrate this and do a fraction more, just to make sure I've got the curve right. It hasn't moved at all. No, still good. We had some steak for dinner, so the cat's all got some as well. Leftovers. Everybody's happy. That's a lot of metal coming off that one. Amazing how uneven, perfect, how uneven some of them can get. Oh, sorry, some of them can be. Okay. I describe this Les Paul neck situation as a sickle shaped thing with a blade and a handle. The handle being this flattened bit up here, and the problem with it is where the handle joins the blade, which is about here. Yeah, this point where they join is the tricky point. Is basically it creates a sort of an elbow, or a sticky out bit, and you have to sort of let this curve of this tool try and take it down and carve it away a little bit, and I suppose scoop it out is probably a way of thinking about it. And that's what it's doing here now. Done. It's taking a fair bit to do, but it's not impossible. Some people, I keep forgetting the term, some people when they talk about Les Pauls, when they get to this bit here, they do something called fall away or something. Is it fall off or fall away or cut away or cut off or scrape away or something? Anyway, seems what they do to somehow try and overcome this thing. There seems to be a wisdom, conventional wisdom, that says kind of scrape away everything from the 12th fret onwards. I think it's about the 12th fret onwards, and I sort of get, it's a very crude way of overcoming the sickle handle problem. And you know, you imagine that the problem exists about here. So you take everything from here and cut it backwards, and what you're really doing is whilst you're cutting everything back, you're ironing out this spot here. And it is a bit of a crude thing. You're just bashing away so that the next fret has got to be lower than the one before, and the one after that's got to be, by definition, has to be lower than the one before that, and so on and so on. And it's a sort of it's a hammer to crack a nut sort of solution, whereas this is actually quite a lot more, I think, a lot more elegant in that it's only taking off what it needs to take off, rather than just being able to arbitrarily say, okay, we've taken off enough to guarantee the next fret is lower, and then we've taken off enough from that to guarantee the one after that's lower. And excuse me, so I never do fall off. I just use this tool, and it cuts gently away like that. And whereas a congested bit here, it gently takes that away as well. And hopefully in a consistent way, which leaves kind of, I suppose you could say, it gently imposes its curve onto something that should be but isn't curved, but is more sickle and handle shaped, or blade and handle shaped. So I like the fact that this system does away, and people, yeah, I've had loads of people say to me, what do you do with this fall away on a Les Paul? And I have to say, because I'm quite innocent and gullible and naive or whatever, for a while I began to think I must be doing something wrong, because all these people in the know, so-called in the know, were saying, well, what do you do with it? You know, don't you do a fall away? All good luthiers do a fall away. Probably using the wrong phrase, but you know. And I don't really know how to answer it other than to say, no, I don't. And the reason I don't is because, as you'll hear, that's a little congested there, but watch as we continue. As you'll hear, I don't need to. I just do this, and the gentle curve of this whole rod takes care of it. It's obviously it's you know, cutting away at the material, but typically there's some low frets here as well as some high frets, so it's not all a single sort of backwards scrape. That's pretty good. That's why I like this process. It's very elegant. So, second to last track now. Still calibrated correctly. Sacrificial strings will be thrown away after this process. See, these two here, are below the radar, so they're actually lower than everything. And because they're low, they're making that high. If you can see that, the lowness of these is making those next two effectively high, which is why it's buzzing at that point. So I'm going to just work a little bit more at that top end there, just to try and free up that bit. In a way though, it's unlikely to free up unless and until I can bottom out these two here. I don't know the reason why they are flat, sorry, low, relative to everything else, so I may just not find out the reason for it. But in order to make the last three play, I have to get quite a way down on them. And that's good enough. Now the final track, and then after that it'll be a case of re-crowning or reprofiling the frets that I've levelled, and with the view of changing them from flattened frets to nice arch shaped ones again, back to their kind of original shape they were when the guitar was new. When the guitar was new, and even when the frets weren't actually level, because when you have uneven frets or unlevel frets, it's not because they've become that way over time. It's because they've always been that way. So there's never, it doesn't go off. It's just never been leveled from the factory. So I can still see those particular two are showing up as significantly lower than everything else around, but they've just started to come up now, which is good on this edge of the board anyway. So this should all play. Right, and this action now, well, it's not in tune, but the action is about 1mm all the way across. It's very low, but you know, started out that low as a target. If we get an E off this thing now. All the way along, listening for pings at the nut, which I'm not getting. Beautifully done. Just do another quick check. It is astonishingly low, just on 1mm. In fact, this, I can go a tiny bit up on this end and a tiny bit down on that end. Beautiful. My fingers are filthy from all the fret dust that's come off, but you can see that's the fret leveling part done again on this one. It's the third one I've done today, and the strings now can come off this, because that's everything. They've done their duty, because now I'm going to dust this off and prepare to re-crown or reprofile the frets, and then after that we're into the process of polishing them out, get them all shined up, ready to play again. This time with obviously a much different action. So it creates quite a bit of dust, and I think one of the things, if I was doing my ebook again, one of the things I might do is try and get even more close-up shots of the fret leveling process and really give some kind of words of encouragement, because I know that a couple of people I've spoken to who've done it and done it very successfully and got pretty good results, but they've shared with me that to begin with, their experience was that they got a bit freaked out at a certain point in the process, sort of halfway through the fret leveling process, because it can feel very, very brutal. And when you start looking at I'll show you close up in a second, but when you start looking at how much metal, ouch, it can take off, if you're a newcomer to it, you can quite quickly think you've gone horribly wrong and massacred your frets, when in fact you've got actually loads of leeway. I don't like this neck rest. This time I got another one. It just falls over too often. Okay, so it's just got rid of some of the dust off there. What was I going to do? What was I going to do? I was going to do something I've forgotten. Oh yes, I'm going to show you close up how much metal is taken off some of these frets to get them level. And then some have got almost none, in fact none whatsoever taken off, a couple of frets. So it's an interesting business, but for the newcomer it can be quite daunting until you just sort of get used to it and get the hang of it, and then you get a sense then over time of how far you can go with it and when you need to actually stop. It's very it's a lot of feel involved, and when you get the feel for it, you can fly along and make good fast judgments really. Okay, so to reprofile these, I'm going to just mark up the tops of the frets again with black permanent marker, and then I'm going to use the Stumac offset diamond coated fret crowning, they call it a fret crowning file, and it's a very good tool, but I prefer to call it a fret reprofiling, because rather than hitting the crown, which it never does, it works on the edges of the fret that you levelled for the purpose of kind of taking the flattened fret and cutting it into a new arch shape, and it does it without hitting the top of the fret, and that's what the marker pen's purpose is, to you can see the little thin black line, and as long as I leave this little thin black line on top of the fret, I've avoided touching the top, which means I can be pretty confident that my relative levelness that I've achieved between all of these frets is still intact or unmolested, undisturbed. So I call it reprofiling rather than recrowning. It would be recrowning if I was actually scraping the whole of the surface down with this tool, which I'm exactly trying to avoid doing. Doing it with a hand tool, or more properly that triangular file instead of this, is actually a way of doing it more accurately. Although it takes longer and it's a bit back aching kind of. It's more accurate because you never actually run the risk of touching the top of the fret with the tool, because it works up the sides of the fret only. So it's a sort of insurance policy, and as a result it's a little bit more accurate. Now, where there's been a lot of flattening, you have to work a bit harder to get that shape back to a nice arch, and sometimes you end up spending quite a bit of time on one end of the fret or the other. And often it's not entirely possible to bring it to a fine arch shape, so basically we're kind of getting the best we can do out of what we've got to play with. These last two are particularly flattened, so I've got to work a bit longer on it. Okay. So in the next couple of days I've got a Yamaha SG2000 coming for a refret. Excellent. I'm looking forward to that. I've never seen another guitar that I've never seen in person, or never played even, so it's a real pleasure to, or privilege to have a look at something new. So that's my frets, levelled, reshaped, and ooh, see, it does that every time. Do it that way and it will fall over the other way. Yeah, so having a go at a guitar, a vintage guitar, that the type of not actually seen in person. I've seen them in lots of articles and reviews and stuff, or pictures throughout my life, but just not one of the ones I've ever been fortunate enough to own or play. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Okay, so there's the fret leveling done, and we've got an incredibly low action on a fast flat neck. So the next bit is the sort of boring but kind of meditative bit for me, where I get to protect the whole neck with masking tape, and I've got to cut a load of strips to do that, and then I get to polish the whole lot out with sandpaper and micro mesh, and I'll do all of that off camera as I usually do these days, because it's even more boring than me talking to you about this process, which I kind of show because it's quieter, not because I haven't shown it nearly 500 times before. So I can't really, since I didn't sort of set out to entertain, it's not easy to find other things to do to make these videos scintillating. They're really meant only to be interesting to the person either whose guitar they are, in this case Karl, or somebody who happens through the power of Google search to be looking for some sort of visual reference point on the setup of an Epiphone Les Paul like this, in which case it just happens to be relevant and useful to them, but to anyone else who kind of watches it, it's probably just mind-numbingly boring. Now I've got an issue here with this board, and that is it's shedding or shredding itself. So I need something new to cut my paper on. Why is it shredding? I don't understand why, but it is anyway, and maybe it's some sort of laminate that I didn't know about. Anyway, it's coming off onto the masking tape, so I'm going to switch round, do it the other way round if I can. It's really annoying me, this. And switch round and try and use it this way up, so you can see how worn out that is. Cut so many times. Don't usually do it that way around, so I'll try that way for ease. But I'm going to stop you, and I shall return on video when will I come back. Oh, that's why that's getting in the way. I'll come back when snapped off. That's brilliant. How did I get there? I'll come back when I've basically finished sanding all the frets and we are ready to restring, or maybe we're ready to replace the switch, yes, that Karl wants replacing. So and I might as well, I'll do that. So meanwhile, I'll go off camera and disappear. See you in a minute. Well, here we have the finished thing. Flat and very low. Distracted by the radio, so I can get over to there and turn it down. We have the finished Les Paul. Now what I haven't done is I haven't changed the switch that Karl wanted me to change. Sounding guitar, and it plays amazingly well, incredibly low, can go higher of course. I like it. like it. I'm not convinced about changing this switch over. I mean, it's a little bit more positive. It's a lot of faff with wires that aren't long enough really. So I'm going to play it for a little while. Bottom's coming off. Something Dave Gilmore-ish, I think. But took a ride, we'll know what I find there. Somebody's version of the Beatles song, but I can't sing it because it'd be copyright infringement. Anyway, there we go. I'm going to take this indoors and I'm going to have a look at it and see. Maybe I'll just get hold of Karl and ask him what was actually wrong with this switch, because I say it's the original switch is a much better quality one than this replacement, and I've sort of fixed on a replacement toggle which gets it back to looking how it should do, so I don't really want to go ahead and rewire it and start pulling wires in such a tight space, because changing switches over once the whole wiring's been pulled down into this end of things doesn't feel good to me, and I'd prefer not to, just a personal preference, because there's so little room to play in there, and actually you don't get a lot of bites at it. Anyway, this is playing great. It's a fantastic action. It's gone from being an average Epiphone to something quite astonishing in terms of playing ability. So anyway, not you'd know by my playing, but there you go, that's a different matter. So here we go, Epiphone Les Paul, pretty much done, fret leveled. What I will do on this one, by the way, I have to say, I'm going to take this indoors and I'm going to just soften off the edges of these frets, because they're actually a little bit sharp for my liking. So I'm going to take care of them, and that's that.